And we are live. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Forever Sports. Rassie Erasmus has rolled the dice and made wholesale changes, complete wholesale changes. Just 7 players that were involved last weekend, keeping their spot in the match day 23. It's an all new backline, completely new backline. It's a new captain. It's a new front row. It's a new lock combination. It's a new look loose trio. It's a 5-3 split on the bench, which features 3 uncapped players. And very much just completely chopped and changed what we saw in the first test. So Rassie Erasmus has resisted the temptation on the back of a poor performance in the second half against Italy to go against the sort of team that they had basically been brewing and basically had pretty much decided 2 weeks ago when they announced to the internal squad the team for the first test as well as the second test. And it looks like they've pretty much stuck with their guns regarding those decisions. Salman Murat will captain at the side on Saturday. Pieter-Steph du Toit is back. And the biggest news is that Willie le Roux will make his 100th appearance for the Boks on Saturday. And will pretty much lead them out and down in Gqeberha. So before we look at it, please do smash a like on the video. Please do subscribe to the channel as well. And that is not the right team. Give me 2 seconds. Here we go. There we go. That is the team that we are looking at. So big call across the side. Let's get into it, shall we? So in the front row, Thomas du Toit gets a start next to Malcolm Marx and Wilco Louw. So keeping it relatively safe in that front row, Thomas du Toit, direct replacement for Oxenchair. He drops down to the bench, but then we see 2 new locks in the form of Salman Murat and Ruan Nokia. So none of the usual sort of 4 involved this weekend. Surprised almost not to see something like an Archie Snyman involved. So not a lot of experience at lock. Malcolm Verstappen is into the side. At the moment, it looks like Sia Khaleesi's niggle is a little bit more serious than initially feared, and they said that they are currently trying to manage him, which probably means if this was a game against the All Blacks, for example, they might risk him, they might sort of push him in, but they're not going to take an unnecessary chance in the circumstances. As a result, Marco Verstappen gets a 3rd start in a row. He's being really given an opportunity to try and stake a claim here. Big news that Pieter-Steph du Toit is back and will start in the number 7 jersey. Jasper Wiese starts in the 8. So changes at lock, but apart from that, a very experienced pack. And if you look at the fact that there are 493 total test caps in the pack itself, a lot of them have come from the likes of Malcolm Marx, for example, Pieter-Steph du Toit, the leading sort of cap player. But I mean, there's plenty of experience with regards to Thomas du Toit, Wilco Louw. Maybe don't have plenty of caps. I mean, I think it's Thomas du Toit's got 23 caps, Wilco's got 17. But they are both very experienced campaigners. Malcolm Verstappen's been around for a while, but very inexperienced in the fact that there are just 16 caps between our 2 locks, and our lock on the bench is on debut. Let's have a look at what's a very exciting, very next generation backline, which also then features Willie le Roux. So 9-10 combo, Grant Williams and Moy Liebach. Yesterday, I talked about the fact that I really want to see Moy Liebach get a go, and he'll be doing it next to Grant Williams. So expect to see a lot of attacking rugby hopefully on display in Saturday. Our 2 wings, Makazole Mapimpi and Edwil van der Merwe. The experience of Makazole Mapimpi, and then Edwil van der Merwe, who's making his 2nd appearance, was man of the match on his debut a little over a year ago against Wales, and unfortunately, due to an injury, then did not play another game for the Boks. But a big opportunity for him to have a go at staking a claim for the jersey, really. And number 12 jersey, got Andre Esterhuizen next to Canan Moodie. Very interesting to see Canan Moodie being used as an outside centre. He struggled there a little bit with the Bulls early on this season, but the Boks have always looked at him as an outside centre option, and they've gone with him at 13. But a big call as well is Ethan Hooker set to make his debut off the bench. So it's a very new look backline. And then we look at our bench, and we've got Jan Wessels, who is covering Hooker the first time he's actually been played as an out-and-out hooker, inverted commas, for the Boks. You then got Oxenchair, Asanate, and Tlabakanye set to make his debut off the bench. And we've seen a combination with Oxenchair, Asanate, Tlabakanye against the Barbarians. It worked pretty well, and it definitely seems, if you've been to training and you watch some of our training footage, those two definitely seem to have a very good working relationship. So that could very well be a combination that we might see quite often in the near future. Kubus Visa will get an opportunity to potentially play with his brothers. He is on debut, and I'm probably the player I'm almost the most excited for, because I think at the moment we know our sort of four locks are all starting to get to the last stages of their career, and we've yet to have anyone really. Maybe Ruan here has put his hand a couple of times, but it took him a while to get used to it. But nobody's really sort of thrown their hat into the mix and said, I am one of the next generation of our locks, and I'm good enough to sort of, move the Fab Four, so to speak, on. And you've then got Kubus Visa, who I think could be one of those types of players. Then we've got Kubus Ranach. Sorry, actually, let's talk about Evan Roos. Evan Roos, an opportunity, number 20 jersey, can cover 6 and cover 8 as well. So he's an opportunity to try and stake a claim. And then you've got Kubus Ranach, Sasha Famigomazulu, and Ethan Hooker. So Ranach and Oxen Cheer, your experienced players on the bench. But I mean, Kubus Ranach, the most experienced those two got 80 caps of the 98 on the bench. So just 18 caps between Jandrik Wessels, Asna de Klabakanya, Kubus Visa, Sasha Famigomazulu, and Ethan Hooker, because you've only got Evan Ruiz, Sasha, and Jan Hendrik who are actually capped on the bench. So Sasha covering sort of 15, 12, 10 as well there, so very important to this bench. And then you've got Ethan Hooker who can cover 13 as well as 12 and both wings. So you've got options across there, so it'll be the nice thing about this is that it gives the Box a lot of opportunities to, for example, rotate or sort of change sort of players as they kind of want to, because they've got different options in their different positions. Billy LaRue makes his 100th play. He will just be the 8th player in Springbok history to play 100 tests. He will follow the footsteps of Ewan Etzebeth, Victor Matfield, Tindam Tawira, John Smith, Jean de Villiers, Percy Montgomery, and Brian Habana. Just the 4th backline player to make 100 appearances. And what's quite a cool full circle moment is he made his debut against Italy back in 2013. 12 years later, he'll play against Italy for his 100th test. Marcus Pimpy nearing that 50 test mark, by the way. 47 tests to his name. In terms of some of the total caps in the starting lineup is 493. We had over 1,200 last week. Of those, 230 in the back line, 280 amongst the forwards, 98 caps in on the bench. The average caps per player in the back line is 30. In the forwards, 35. The average caps per player on the bench is 12. 3 uncapped players is going to do that to you. What do we think? Very, very interesting. Very bold calls. And now I've got an opportunity to really sort of get stuck into some of the comments that everybody's sort of been throwing in here. So I wanted to give you guys some minutes to sort of digest the side and start to put together your thoughts on it. And now we can start to pick apart and maybe talk about why some of these decisions have actually been made. And also, by the way, if you're a Bulls fan, as I'm busy looking over here, more and more press releases coming out today about all the different Bulls signings. So at the moment, I've got just 72% people saying they are happy with the team. Very, very low in comparison. Usually we sit at about 90-95%. So let's go through some of the comments. As Jan Brand saying, big changes. AJS said, so good to see Edville. Zach saying, so happy for Kubus. SVG reckons he loves this team. Oliver says, these guys will be more hungry. Albert van Lingen saying, I'm happy with all the rotation. Hooker getting a chance. This team will be challenged to do better than the other team last week. Tyreek saying, can't complain about the squad. I'm just a bit concerned about Salman Murat because he hasn't had the best performance in the green and gold. He will definitely be a very topical player. And you'll have to face the media on Friday and get those sort of questions from him. Spice says, if Villiers has one of his notoriously crappy games, do we see Sasha or Ethan at full back? You'll see Sasha at full back. If anybody, you won't see Ethan Hooker at full back. They see him more as a outside center than anything else. Humid Exotic saying, Murat has a massive point to prove. Lots of people talking about Ethan Hooker. Heinrich Buke saying, these 4 props are pure beats. Yeah, look, some big, big boys are coming on in those jerseys. Christian says, Rassie clearly sending a message to the squad with this team. Brandon saying he digs it. Roz Wentworth not quite sure what to say. Littler reckons explosive energy all right. Johnny Pillay said, Stevie, it looks like a team set for quick breakdown ball. Hopefully dominate the breakdown and feed the backs. Matt van Rensburg was saying, great squad. Rate these guys are going to put super hungry. Are going to be super hungry and get stuck in. And Lister Faye says Thomas Tatoy and Vilko is crazy. And then you've got Oxen Asnat to come on. So as somebody said earlier, goodness me, that is two very, very large props combinations, not just one set, but two very big props. So, asking the question, are you happy with the team? 195 votes. Now let's sort of start picking it apart. So where am I most excited about this team? Probably the front rows, genuinely, because these are two front rows that goes to the next World Cup. Let's sort of start there, really. Trevor Nyakani currently injured. Frans Malherbe currently injured. Bongi Manambi is the oldest of our three hookers. And who am I missing here? Vincent Koch, also one of the older props. So this is 6 forwards, the 2 front rows that all get to the next World Cup. That should all be very much in the squad. And I think this is our next generation, really, of our front rows. Yes, Vincent Koch's probably not going to be discarded yet. Bongi Manami not quite yet. But I do think that we're very close to sort of seeing what our next sort of gen front row looks like. That excites me. I'm maybe slightly disappointed that they've kind of gone Jan-Hendrik Wessels. I would love to have seen Marnus van der Merwe. I'm a big Marnus van der Merwe fan. I have no doubt we'll see him against Georgia, but I would like to have seen him in and amongst those that front row. But interesting to see how Jan-Hendrik Wessels is getting a chance at hooker, because they've never really used him as a hooker. They've always said he can kind of cover that. They saw him more as a loose head. The Bulls saw him more as a hooker, and now you're sort of seeing him being used as both for the Boks, and that's a big moment for him. They talk about these hybrid players, these versatile players, and he's very much one of them. So for me, that's probably the most exciting part, is that we've always famously had the best scrum in the world and the most powerful scrum, and now we're seeing the next generation of that. And not to say that these guys are young. I mean, the starting front row, Wilco Louw, Thomas du Toit, Malcolm Marx. Yes, if you look at the caps, for example, about a combined 100 caps between the three. Malcolm Marx was 77. Wilco Louw's got 17 caps, but Wilco Louw was the best tight head in the URC. Thomas du Toit's got 23 caps. Very interesting that he's playing loose head, because he's at tight head the entire season, but he was in the Premiership Dream Team. So we've got the best tight head in the URC, one of the best props in the Premiership, and probably the best hooker in the world in Malcolm Marx. And those three could all start at the next World Cup. You then got an Oxen Chair, one of the best loose heads in World Rugby last year, next to Jan-Hendrik Wessels and Asenate and Tlabakanye, two very promising young players. And I mean, Jan-Hendrik Wessels 4 caps, Asenate on debut, but they're looking at him as someone who they want to be involved long term. They really do rate him. And if we then sort of go, the locks also very interesting, very much next generation. We're talking about Salman Murad's got 10 caps to his name. Ruan Okier's got 6 caps. Kobus Wiese on debut. I think that this is a bit of a shootout, in all honesty. Which of you guys are going to be able to put pressure? If we have to cut the squad down, we've already got 4 locks. We usually go with 5 to a World Cup. Which of you 3 is the next one to come in? Right now, Ruan Okier, then probably Salman Murad, then probably Kobus Wiese, simply because Kobus Wiese hasn't yet played for the Boks. However, I think he can actually get ahead of even Ruan Okier. I think Kobus Wiese, for me, is probably the most exciting of these 3 players as a prospect. I think that he's got the physicality. I mean, I think Ruan Okier is a phenomenal player. I think he will play many games for the Boks. Very much in the Franco Mostert type of mold. Kobus Wiese, Jasper Wiese's brother, brings that sort of physicality. 1.97, about 120 odd kgs, packs a punch. He really does pack a punch. Loose cheer, as somebody mentioned, it's a quick loose cheer. And with Malcolm Marx as well, even if Ruan Okier is nice and mobile, hopefully we're going to get clean ball. We've got to make sure our breakdown work is significantly better than what it was last weekend, because it wasn't good enough last weekend. And the big thing is, with this team that we've got, quick breakdown, and then you've got Grant Williams and Miley Bock. Let them cook. Let them cook. And you're going to have the wrecking ball that is Andre Esterhuizen, but then so much ball-playing ability with a Caden Moody, a Willie LaRue, Edel van der Merwe. You've got the finishing of Makazole Mapimpi. So it's a good backline that we could potentially release. For me, I think that I'm really looking forward to seeing what Marlon Liebach does. I think he got a bit of a shootout here between him and Sasha, because, I don't think Andre Pollard had his best game last week. It happens. But these two now, after a game like that, they've got to try and go and say, listen, this is actually an opportunity for me. And that's nothing against Pollard. It's the same for a lot of these players. The Locks, for example, last weekend, I don't think any of us are really going, yo, Franco Mossad or Arcus Neyman or even they had like a really special game. I don't think any of them had particularly notable performances, especially to their usual standards. And that means you now got 3 new locks who can say, well, if I can get a bit of a long-lasting impression, if I can go put my hand up, then that just puts me in the mind of the Bok coaches. Loose trio, not so much. Far more settled. Marco Verstappen, 26 caps, but he's been in a World Cup squad. He's a World Cup winner. Peter Steph the Toys got 86 caps. Rassie got 35 caps. These 3 players are very established. Very, very established. In fact, it's pretty much, within your top 6 best loose forwards. I mean, it's our usual loose trio, but Marco Verstappen in for Siya Kolisi, which is always the case when Kolisi is injured, and Kolisi is injured. So it's a very settled loose trio. The backline, far less so. You got Marcus Lomapimpa with 46 caps, Villiers with 99 caps, but apart from that, the most experienced player is Andre Esterhuizen with 19 caps. So not that much experience in the backline, and some genuine young players. Caden Moody still very, very young, not even in his career, but as a person as well. And then coming off the bench, Ethan Hooker, very young. Sash Faimagomazulu, very young. So we're definitely seeing a bit of a mix of experience with some very young players. I mean, Kubas Reinhardt, for example, lots of experience, and he's going to come on with Sasha and Ethan. You've got an Oxen Shea who's going to bring on the experience when he comes on with Jan Hendrik and Asanati. Evan Ruiz, Kubas Visa, not as much experience, but the loose forwards themselves are quite experienced. Kubas Visa probably far more lacking that experience next to him. However, he can very likely to come on to Fasal Muruat and lock next to a Ruan Nokia, who he's played with as well. So small things to think about in and amongst this side, that we've got people who kind of understand how they work, and that part is also very exciting itself. I mean, Kubas Reinhardt and Sasha, for example, that's going to be a 9-10 combination of the Stormers next season. So it'd be quite cool from a Stormers fan point of view to see what that looks like, and it's the first opportunity to really get to understand what it might look like and whether it's going to work or not. And with the fact that they're doing it for the Springboks, well, how exciting that is that from a Stormers point of view. Some of the other comments over here, Magnus Michael saying, exciting new team, fascinating rotation, trust it'll work out across the season, reckon they're going to perform on Saturday. It's a good mix of experience, attack, speed, power, and hunger to prove themselves. CP Nunes saying, you'll never know unless you try. This is the way to get players exposure and experience, 100%. Johnny Pilla saying, I'm glad Evan Ruiz gets a chance. Some of the other comments, John Anderson, sad Vincent Tuka isn't even on the bench. I think we'll probably see him again next week against Georgia, but I do think that he's very much one of the few players in the last few weeks that's put up his hand to be involved in a longer term. Christian says, special that Visa will be making his debut with his brother in the team. Yeah, how cool. Oh, hopefully. That we don't just see them run past each other when they kind of make those subs. It would be nice if they can get onto the park at the same time. I don't think they've ever actually played professionally together, because Jasper Visa went sort of Cheetahs, went overseas, was at Leicester Tigers. Kuba Visa came back from Sale Sharks. Before then, he actually started at Stormers. So I don't think they've actually ever played together professionally. I stand to be corrected, but my understanding of Jasper Visa, I don't think he's ever played with his brother. I mean, he literally came through varsity Cup, Cheetahs, then went overseas, now he's in Japan. So could be the first time ever we're going to see these two playing together. So that should be really cool as well. And BJH says, if Murat doesn't perform here, Rassie may need to call the experiment over. HJH says, isn't both Pollard and Moni too old? Not at all. Andre Pollard, I think, is 31, I want to say, and Moni Liebach's actually younger than him. Yeah, Pollard is indeed 31, turned 31 this year. And Moni Liebach, I want to say, is 30 on the dot. I lie. He's actually turning 28 next week. So flower halves, because whenever I've been doing this sort of comparison, looking at the ages, I've always said flower halves are actually our best position with regards to our current ages, because Liebach's 27, turning 28, which actually just reminds you that he was 24 years old when he went at the World Cup a few years ago. So a very young player. You've then got, he has been around a while, which is probably why people think he's a bit older. Sash is obviously very young. Jordan Hendricks, another option, very young. So Flowers we're not worried about from an age profile point of view. It's just about finding who we want in the side itself. Matt says, great to see Grant, but pairing him with Marnie, we want Grant and Sasha. I think that they'll play very well together, actually. Bruce says, very happy for Hooker. Class act for the future. I just can't get my head over Murat. Would even play Marvin Uri over him. I hope he proves me wrong. Fun fact about Marvin Uri, by the way, he is going to be playing at the Bulls next season. They announced that today. So interesting to see how that goes. I think it's a very good signing. Adrian says, our locks played like they didn't have squad competition. The lineups were scrappy too. Sasha can replace Escom and Andre. It can move to flank again. Not so Sasha's going to flank. Interesting concept. Double says, watch these Oaks smash Italy and put pressure on last week's team. Victor says, first game Kwaka isn't there. He is a legendary player. Transformational Edge says, I wonder if Moody will go fullback with Hooker at center. No, I think we'll see. If anyone goes fullback, it'll be Sasha. Gershwin saying, the young blood in the team will bring lots of energy and will try to cement a spot. And Brent saying, what does Rassie see in Murat? Look, to be fair, they've always rated him. I understand the main thing what people are worried about. He hasn't really impressed from a Springbok point of view. He's definitely had times, and I even think during the season we had a couple of games where I kind of went, oh, there's the Murat we thought we'd get. There's the Solomon Murat we saw at junior level where he was good enough and he was very impressive at junior level. We haven't seen that yet for the Springboks. And I must admit, I'm not entirely sure the way to get that out of him is to make him captain. You know, I really think that he's struggling at the moment to sort of make his mark. We all know he's probably the most scrutinized player in this side. Why not give the captaincy of Peter Steph the toy and take the pressure away from Solomon Murat, who can go out and just play his game. Just go out and try and be the best Solomon Murat he can be and try and convince people and show people that he is ready to play at this level and that, you know, he deserves to be there. So, you know, he's always been a leader. You know, he's captain at schoolboy, at SS schools, under 20, Stormers, Springboks. So he's always, I mean, I think it's probably one of his biggest traits is his leadership ability, and very quiet type of player. But I think he's one of those players who just sort of has that kind of energy. You know, you get very natural leaders and people kind of just gravitate towards them. So I think he's got that from a leadership point of view. Nobody's ever really doubted that part of him. Everyone sort of doubted the playing side. You know, can he do what we need him to do in the number 4 jersey? We don't really have an enforcer. So, you know, he's not really shown that enforcer side of him. And that's kind of what the expectation is in number 4. That's why I mentioned to see how Kuba's visa goes, because I think he has far more sort of physical traits and the way he plays the game is a bit more physical and a bit more imposing. But let's see. Jake says you would have stuck with Archie or Etzebeth instead of Murat. You would have said Kurtley Arnster and Ches and Colby will be missed at wings. The rest is all good. I'm very excited to see Edel van der Merwe. I mean, we're very similar type of player to those two. Deceptively physical, very, very quick, very good skill set as well. He's going to be a massive loss to the Lions next season and a huge asset to the Sharks if they get him playing well. Tian van den Berg says, Moody at 13. Hope he proves me wrong, but I'm not filled with confidence. I'm not a massive fan of him at 13 also, must admit. Michael says, Murat has been captain for under 20 and Stormers for a while. Probably more relations, which was lacking last week, rather than team leading. Interesting point. Adrian says, no, Sasha moves to 12 and Andre to flank. Okay, I'm with you. We could just have then Andre replacing Marco van Staden. But yes, Jean-Andres says, absolutely stoked to see Edel van der Merwe getting the nod for the Italy match. His electrifying pace and game-changing flair are exactly what the Boks need to light up the pitch. There we go. 100%. So Sia Khaleesi is being managed at this stage. They said it is a niggle, so nothing to panic about, but they are managing him. They don't want to push him up. And my gut says, I think if it was a big game like New Zealand or the likes, then they might push him. But there's no real need, I think. So I think they'll just give him an extra time. We'll probably see him against Australia. Would be my guess. Khotso says, exciting team. Looking forward to the Grant and Marnie combination. Malware says, Moody was playing like a Bok 13 for the Bulls this season. He was a unit in defense. I must admit to being in disagreement. I don't think he was phenomenal at 13. Just my thoughts. And I think he got moved out of 13 for good reason. He's played at 13 for the Boks before, But I mean, at the Bulls, literally, I think he started at 13 and he was moved moved away from there within 2 months and pushed back to the wing this year. And I think it's because he struggled a bit at 13. Long term, he sees himself as a 13. He wants to play at 13. He's got the trace to be a 13. And by the way, Rassie Erasmus saying that whilst this is a 5-3 split with Andre Esterhuizen, it can very well be a 6-2, given the fact that, as somebody mentioned, Andre could go to flank if you then put on the right side players. So I don't know if we'll necessarily see that, but there is an option for that. I think the nice thing, I suppose, it gives you the option on the day itself. You can kind of look at what we need and feel that if we want to move Andre Esterhuizen to flank, keep him on the park, and an overload that sort of sense, especially in the carrying, we can do that. Werner says, excellent mix of experience. Squad rotation is the Springbok competitive advantage. And Alan Dutoy says, very happy to see Edward van der Merwe. Big things coming 2027 World Cup. And TL earlier saying, desperately want Murat to prove the dial is wrong, but I question the PR of banging on about how competent he is as a captain when he's not even consistently in the team. Reynolds saying, would be nice to see Edward and Arendse in a 100-meter dash. Wonder who would win. I think I'd love to see all our wings. And Antonio Kubas, Reinach and Grant Williams in the mix. Grant Williams, for me, surely is in front after 10. I'm not sure who's in front after 100. Kubas Reinach is also absolutely rapid. Plenty of pace in this side, across it, actually. Rice says Moody is an outside back. I think I'd prefer to see him stay on the wing at the moment. I'm going to close that vote, by the way. Well over 400 votes and about 75% of people saying that they're happy with the team. So it is lower than usual. To be fair, you probably find people are happy with about 90% of the team, and there's maybe one or two selections that they're not. And then for overall, you're thinking, I would make a few changes. We're never always going to be 100% happy. I like it in terms of, I like the fact that we have rotated. I don't think we've got that many opportunities to rotate this year. And I don't think we should be rotating for the sake of rotating. I want to win the Rugby Championship. I want to have a good end of year tour. Springbok Rugby is always also about winning. And we had these big conversations last year when we weren't rotating during the Rugby Championship. And my big thing was like, I want to win the Rugby Championship, We should be winning the Rugby Championship. And that's what I want to make sure we do this year. And we talk about being in such a good golden generation. We've got to make sure we're winning trophies in between World Cups. So we've done that now. We won the World Cup. Then we won the British National Lions Series. Then we won the next World Cup. After that, first year after the World Cup, we won the Rugby Championship. Now, if you go win the Rugby Championship again, then all of a sudden, this group of players have won 3 Rugby Championships, British National Lions Series, 2 World Cups, and you can start sitting there comparing them to some of the best, that All Black side, 2011 sort of to 2017 kind of vibes. So we've got to find opportunities to play new players, and I think Georgia next week will obviously be interesting to see what that team looks like. And I think it'll probably be a bit of a combination of this and a couple of other players as well. Maybe an opportunity to try some other players in different positions. Like somebody's talking about wanting to see Damian Willemse at 12. Maybe next week we'll see something like that. But I do think that this is one of our chances to rotate because we've got Italy, Georgia, then 2 against Australia, 2 in New Zealand, 2 against Argentina, and then a very tough end-of-year tour where we'll be able to rotate against Italy, but maybe not as much time to rotate as we were hoping this year. And that's why we went full string last week. So we went full string last week. They had a hit out. Now we can look to rotate the next weeks. And then I think come sort of August, we'll see pretty settled sides, would be my gut. Because especially we've got 2 weeks against Australia, then a week break, then 2 games against New Zealand, a week break. So you can play 2 full string sides against Australia. You've got 14 days from the last Australian match to your first New Zealand match. So you don't have to worry about, we need to rest players. And what's been very interesting is the idea of resting players. So, for example, people were talking about, Alua Diaga and saying, he's played 2 games in a row and he's coming off a long-term injury. He needs to rest. Alua Diaga played a full Japanese season. He's played 940 minutes of rugby so far this season. And he played, call it about 840 minutes between January and May. So he's played a lot of rugby. I'm not saying that means he doesn't need to rest, but we mustn't think that Alua Diaga is coming back from injury because he's not coming back from injury. I think sometimes we fall in the trap of forgetting that there's a lot of other rugby that these guys play. So something like Lord Diaga, he's not coming back from injury versus somebody like a Peter Steph Toy, who is coming back from injury. He got injured towards the end of the season, missed a couple of games, coming back from injury now. Lord Diaga is far more match fit. Did obviously have a bit of a gap between his last game in Japan, which is on the 31st of May to the 28th of June. But again, then he's also had a month of rest, inverted commas. So just because people have played 2 games in a row for Springbok doesn't suddenly mean they need to rest. Back in the day, people used to play 5, 6, 7 games in a row. So apparently coming out of the press conference that Siya Kolisi is just not quite ready, but pretty much apparently almost getting there, and nothing just yet coming out of that press conference. Else we'll have an update if there's anything big that comes. Pumalelo saying it would be nice to see how big this front 3 fares in this game. Our depth needs to be proven at Bok level beyond reasonable doubt. Peacemaker saying very worried about Murat, just doesn't look like he is ready to bring the intensity at this level brings. Adam Dutoye says Colby, Edville and Damian Willemse, the back 3 I would like to see play together. And Gershwin was saying, Galant blew hot and cold for the Stormers. Adrian Cape Town says, I'm happy with Jan Hendrik Wessels covering hooker. I don't think that he's a test level loosehead yet. And Mbong has also not been at his best this season. Yeah, personally, I wanted to see Marnus van der Merwe. I'm a big fan, and I really hope we get to see him start next week. I think he could be a big addition to the squad. I really do rate him. I think he's been playing tremendous rugby for the Scarlets, and I think he could be a big member of the World Cup squad in 2027. People, we're going to wrap up there. And we'll be live once again tomorrow to sort of break this down and give you guys a day to kind of digest all of this. We will have the Rassie Erasmus press conference up relatively shortly. That should be up within the next 20-25 minutes. And then you can see from Rassie himself what he had to say about the selections. Please do smash like on the video on the way out. If you are new, make sure you subscribe to the channel on the way to getting that 90,000 subscribers, on the long-term way to getting 100,000 subscribers. So if you guys all are new, make sure you subscribe. And apparently Rassie Erasmus said that altitude played a factor in the team getting a bit gassed in the second half, and apparently bench selections have been considered due to this, whatever that means. You can ponder that on your way out.